Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of our director, staff, and students, I am K. Sriram. Welcome you all to this epic milestone of celebrating the 80th Foundation Day of CSIR-IICT. We also have great pleasure in inviting the chief guest amongst us and various directors of different CSIR laboratories who are seated in the audience. To start with, नाज करता है ज़माना, ज़माने को भी नाज है. CSIR-IICT बुलंदियों पर रहे, दिल की यही आवाज़ है. Respected guests and audience, on this joyous occasion of this 80th Foundation Day celebration, let us salute and applaud the services of past and present presidents, vice presidents, and DG CSIR, the directors of this great institute, the staff, scientific staff, the admin and technical staff, the students of this great institute, the administrators, entrepreneurs, industrialists, last but not the least, the common man of this country, for their unstinted support and encouragement all these years. I am sure in this Amrit Kal, this great institute will reach unscalable heights and remain as a bedazzled diamond in the CSIR crown. The echo of our claps should reverberate for another 20 years in this auditorium when CSIR-IICT celebrates its 100th Foundation Day, and most of us will be celebrating our 80th or 60th birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, let's clap for this institute and for ourselves. Thank you very much. You have been a great sport. At the outset, I would like to request our chief guest of this function, Professor V. Ramgopal Rao Garu, the Vice Chancellor, Birla Institute of Technology and Science, popularly known as BITS Pilani, to kindly come onto the dais to occupy his chair. And I also request our director, Dr. D. Srinivas Reddy Garu, to escort Professor Rao Garu onto the dais. I request our senior-most scientist and head analyticals, Dr. B. Jagdish Garu, to be on the dais. I request Anjana to hand over the bouquet to our director, who will welcome our chief guest by presenting it to him. I request the director to kindly give his welcome address. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Dr. D.S. Reddy.
Professor Ramgopal Rao, chief guest of today's event, any sister lab directors, there are many. Thank you. And my dear colleagues, past and present, can you hear? All the staff, students, very good morning and pleasant morning to you all. So I have a special privilege to welcome you all for this milestone occasion, that is 80th Foundation Day of CSIR. So milestones always come with like it fills with always joy, energy, and also at the same time it also reminds us about our responsibility. So actually our foundation day is on 5th. In particularly 80th foundation day. So what I try to do is because in our foundation days there we also have to see what we did last 1 year and also what we are going to do. Also kind of we have to set the tone. So that's what I thought. I try to do a few glimpses of last 1 year activities and some of the highlights. I'll just show in a few slides. Yeah, can switch up lights. So as many of you are aware, so our journey started, the establishment of our institute started in 1944 with the help of Farman of Nizam. Of course, later it was renamed as RRL Hyderabad. This is one of the few RRL laboratories established in our country. This is one of the major laboratory at that time, 1956. Of course, later 1989 during A.V. Ramarao's era, this lab renamed as Indian Institute of Chemical Technology. That's a present name. So you can see at that time only, actually, there are many uh, buildings came up, fine chemicals during around that time. So natural products lab, catalysis, discovery lab, and of course genetic chemistry lab, GCL we call it. And we also have different new areas, particularly applied biology, lipid research center, semiochemicals, national bank, mole bank. Some of these things are so on our journey it came. So we celebrated silver jubilee in the years 68, 69. Similarly, golden jubilee 93, 94, diamond jubilee 2003, 4, and platinum jubilee 18, 19. That's where we are at this moment. And we have fantastic facilities, infrastructure, people with expertise in different domains. We always rise to the occasion whenever demand is there in the country. So particularly in the early years, 1944, our focus was on coal. Then we shifted to ceramics because of course there are other activities also going on, but we are only picking up a few areas where we focused or where we made impact during that time. In 60s, oils, fats, surface coatings. In 70s, we moved to agrochemicals and generic drugs. 1980, again, this I have to tell you that this is where made big impact in our country, where our lab, particularly IICT and NCL, CDR, a few labs, they really made impact in the country on generic drugs during that time. And of course, in 1990s, polymers and lipids. 2000, our focus was on semiochemicals, environment technology in 2010, of course, functional materials in 2017, and of course, recently also pharmaceuticals and agrochemicals. In particularly during COVID time, we made our impact in the country, particularly from IICT and of course CSIR. See, we have 10 departments at present, starting from chemical engineering, process technologies, CEPT, fluoroagrochemicals, polymers and functional materials, organic synthesis, process chemistry, natural product, medicinal chemistry, catalysis, energy, environmental, and oils, science and technology, analytical chemistry, analytical structural chemistry, applied biology. See, these are 10 departments what we have at this moment. And we have strength of about 160 plus scientists and 200 plus technical staff and 500 plus students population. So that's the strength of our institute. So although our laboratory is chemistry and we have multiple departments, overall we focus on these four themes: healthcare, chemicals, energy, environment. These are all interlinked. So we always work in collaborative mode. And last 1 year, what we did is something. What I wanted to focus on this is like new departments we established, but some of them are, a couple of them are earlier, they are units, now made it as a full-fledged departments, particularly this natural product medicinal chemistry department. Similarly, oils, lipid science and technology. This is what we made new departments, and also we renamed our this chemical renamed to new department, that is chemical engineering and process technology. We wanted to have chemical engineering name in the department. That's where we brought this CEPT, now it is called. And during this process, we also made another policy, that rotation system implemented. Every 3 years, HOD will be rotated, like most of the IITs and most of other organizations they follow. That's where we wanted to implement, so that we can bring young blood into the administrative system. That's where we try to do that one. Again, few things. Last 1 year, what we did, few things I highlighted here. So we implemented this funding support for new recruiters, like startup grant we initiated. I think that's going to continue for in the years to come. And staff reallocation based on expertise. We moved few people to different departments where we are strengthening depending on their expertise. And renaming of department also we did. And the space audit across the lab we did. So we know now which department has how much space, which scientist has how much space. Everything we have in our records at this moment. Depending on the requirement, we will be allotting that space. That's it's a huge exercise. Our committee, one of the committee headed by Dr. Venkat Mohan, did this great job they did. And we are continuing this leadership meeting and LSG lab strategic group meetings in our lab. And of course, lecture series by eminent people. We are continuing to do that one. And participation in mission project. There are new mission projects are being initiated. Some of them are already initiated. I can tell you that we are sitting in a best times, particularly in terms of funding and the projects are concerned. In the administrative matters, change of office timings. Although initially there was a little resistance, but now all cooperated well. Now we all tuned to this change of timings. Again, thanks to all of you for cooperating this exercise. I know this is little, this is decades we are practicing that. We change that time to half an hour early. Again, rotation of I already talked about it. And formation of collegium. This collegium is a group of people, group of scientists, senior scientists. They are helping director and the institute in recommending some of the policies and some of the new initiatives we take up. And reconstitution of committees. Most of the committees were expired. We reconstituted. And town hall meeting, something new concept we started in our institute. This is something where you get a chance to interact with the management, particularly director and all the heads of the departments, and where in terms of administration, finance, or purchase, all people can interact with the management. Their grievances, we can talk about it, and we put action points and we take that action. Whatever necessary actions we take. That is something new we started. This mostly it is available. It is being practiced in corporate offices, major companies. We thought we'll start something new here. I think this is. I get good feedback and people started liking it. I'm sure we are going to take it. Hopefully, other lab directors also can think of implementing this. Something new concept we initiated here. And interdepartmental transfer staff, that also we are doing. And also another one is with NCSM, we submitted DPR, that is Science Experience City proposal at Hyderabad with the Ministry of Culture and our Science and Technology Department going to work together to establish that next to IICT within our campus. In terms of recruitment, so we are doing very good in terms of recruitment. We sent offers to all 6 people and 2 of them already joined. 4 of them are waiting for that IB clearance. And JSA results declared, expected to join soon in process. And we are going to conduct those interviews in a month time. And skill test for junior stenos conducted. There are 5 members, and also new Hindi officer joined, and security officer 1 recruitment is in process now. And new advertisement for group 4 scientists and group 2 staff are expected soon. So this is what I thought I'll give you some update. And in terms of recruitment, I think we are doing very good. Thanks to our administrative for all the cooperation and speeding up this activity. On the occasion of 80th Foundation Day, I thought I'll make a couple of announcements. And there is something, let us celebrate department legacy over past 8 decades and the way forward. So each month we are going to have one department. They are going to talk about, we need to make a full compilation accomplishment in terms of science, people, and impact on society, and also learnings for the future. So what and all we learned last 8 decades. It's not that these all the departments are existing at that time, but at least in that area, suppose if you are working on IELTS department, so what and all we learned in that area during last 8 decades need not be that department in that area. What IICT contributed. That's where we are going to have each month one department is going to do, and also that will help us in making roadmap. And another thing is a new scheme we are going to introduce, that is internal funding. So we call it as a IICT research grant. So where research proposals in line with the CSIR IICT mandate will be invited and of course evaluated and monitored with the help of committee. That's what we are going to implement from now onwards. So this details will be rolled out soon. This is what I thought I'll share with you on this occasion of 80th Foundation Day. Just I'm going to go through a few slides. This is I'm only showing here few selected. We cannot have detailed discussion on these projects, but I can tell you that we are sitting in with full projects, and now it is going to depend on how scientists and students are going to work and execute these projects. Like we have right now 4 missions in place where we are nodals. IICT is nodal, that is APIs, agro mission, and IND mission, and antiviral mission. So these are the 4 major programs we are nodals. And other mission mode projects like carbon cap, CCCS, aroma mission, cotton mission, and seaweed mission. And there are other few, this Atlas, pan cancer. So this plastic depolymerization and Phenome India, and this millet mission. These are the other projects we are taking part, and we have active role in some of these projects. In addition to that, there are few major CSR projects, particularly FTC, FTT, and FBR. Particularly one project I can name it, that DCDA. This is one of the key intermediate for metformin. That's going to be major program. That is major program in our lab at this moment. And in addition to that, we have industrial granting gap projects like SSP, CNP, TSP, and gap project. There are so many projects are there at this moment. Right? How are you going to see? Here only I'm giving you a broad view. How are you going to position in the future, next few years? So major areas are like drug discovery, process development, and lab scale process, know-how for KSMs and intermediates, pharma and agro it can be, and industrial chemicals, lab to pilot processes, and materials for hydrogen electrolyzer, waste to wealth technologies, and green hydrogen technologies, and AI ML platform. Of course, our directors are from different labs are sitting here, and we are going to brainstorm and come up with new plans in that area. And ultimately, what are the deliverables? We are going to increase strength of patents, publications, and tech transfers. And some of the few selective projects I listed here, that's because we already action started some of these projects like castor oil project and coatings and adhesives, biotransformation, and flow chemistry, vaccine adjuvants, immunotherapeutics, neuromachine. Already some of the activity we started and we are going to implement soon, and also natural products and phytopharmaceuticals. Some of these areas we are going to have new projects. Just to tell you a couple of major achievements. So this is one of the major achievement. I can tell you that we are really pleased to inform you all that so CSIR-IICT joined GACL for flagging of this dispatch of first consignment of hydrogen hydrate. I know this project was started several years ago, and right now we are in a position to, of course, at Dahej GACL in a position to commercialize this hydrogen hydrate. Originally started from IICT, this bench scale process and pilot scale. Of course, I have a couple of 2 minutes video on this one. I'm not going to spend time on this one. And another important achievement is we are identified as a designated laboratory for OPCW, that is actual Center for Analysis of Chemical Toxins, CSIR IICT. So that's again major contribution for our institute, particularly from analytical department. So this is basically where for the analysis of warfare chemicals. There's a rare opportunity what we have, and we feel proud, like we take pride on this one. And skill development courses, ASDC, that is analytical skill development course. This organization of particularly OPCW, like where international participant come and take training, and we have about representatives from 45 countries, and we already conducted 4 courses during this 2022, about 71 members. Again, these are all satisfaction and also kind of contribution to the world through this exercise. Similarly, we have under CSIR Integrated Skill Initiative. So these are all some of the programs, several programs we are doing, several beneficiaries, like more than 1,500 beneficiaries we have. And similarly, Jigyasa program. So there also we get student scientist connect programs. We train so many people here, so many students and teachers. That's something, again, contribution we are doing as a societal way. A few other programs. So we all know this is one of the successful program in our CSIR. That is a 1 week, 1 lab. So we conducted, our turn came during the March, that is 7th to 12th March 20 last year. So this year. And our none other than our minister, honorable minister, Dr. Jitendra Singh was here, inaugurated, and also we had series of programs. First, we started with the industry interact meet on first day, and next day happened to be the International Women's Day. We celebrated, and similarly, third day Kisan Mela, and fourth day Researchers Conclave, fifth day Student Scientist Connect, and the last day we had science communication and ethics in science. We invited many accomplished people during that week, and also we got good visibility in our city, and also across social media we got good visibility. So that's where we had really good week, that 1 week 1 lab program. Again, these are some of the glimpses of that program. This is a industry conclave, and this is exhibition. This is exhibition inside that tour. We also had Samyukt 2022, their student festival. So that is also, again, students who are really had good time during that time. We had dignitaries, both of them, Dr. Sumati and Srinivas were there, and also there are other programs also we conducted during the Samyukt 2022, and hopefully we are going to do this time also during at that around the same months. And we also conducted another big event. This is CSIR event. Where many labs are participated. That is SSBMT Outdoor Finals Cricket and Volleyball, and this is one of the mega event. And many teams from different laboratories across India, they came to IICT, and of course with the help of CCM sister lab CCMB and NGRI, we conducted this tournament, and we got many lot of appreciation and good feedback about this event. And in addition to that, we also conducted few, like last year, Foundation Day, Professor Balram, and similarly, Women's Scientist Conclave, that is self-reliant. Our governor was there. Of course, this was conducted with the help of Scientist Conclave of Self-Reliant, and also NASI, with their coordination, we did that event. Similarly, we conducted a Space 2022 conference. Similarly, Indo-French Science Connect with CPEFRA we did, and few other events. This is Rashtriya Baudik Sampada Mahotsav. This is this program recently conducted here, and again luminescence and its applications. ICLA 2023 was conducted, some of the conferences, and we also conducted traditional knowledge influence of science and sustainable society. This was also conducted very recently. And in addition to that, we also participated in some of the center state science conclave, some of the mega expos, and also this recently one IFEX was organized at High-Tech's Exhibition Center. There also we participated from IICT and showcased some of the activities. So just few more slides. So we also received several awards and recognitions, and from Hindustan Petroleum, that HP award we got in this NGIC New Generation Idea Contest 2021. We received last year, and similarly we got Golden Peacock Eco Innovation Award, because this is a contribution from different labs from CSIR, few labs like NCL, CCMB, NERI, and along with the IICT are there. And we also some of our colleagues also received many awards. Again, I'm just flashing this Modium here with the 2 awards, and also Sridhar Vocational Excellence Award. And we also got 2 technology, this SCRB Star Awards. This again, that is very few people in CSR system got. This is Dr. Sridhar Reddy and Rambabu got that SCRB Star Awards and a few other awards like Chittaranjan Patra, Niveta Sahu, Sanjeev Kaul, and also Dr. Gangagni Rao and Dr. Pratama elected as Nasi Fellow, Rambabu, Fellow of Royal Society, FRSC, and Dr. SP Singh, BN Singh Award, and also Dr. Venkat Mohan received Abdul Kalam Technology Innovation Fellowship. That is again prestigious fellowship. So that is another important one. And Dr. Sanjit Kanjilal, he became the member of Transport Elimination Technology Advisory Group of WHO. This is again another prestigious one. And Dr. Nagaya, one of our senior scientists, got many recognitions, like he became committee member, standing finance committee, executive member of this CCRUM, similarly member of board of governor for NIPER, and also this lifetime membership for FABA, and also expert member of this governing body of CCRM, Ministry of Ayush. And Telangana Academy of Sciences also gave us many selected fellows and associated fellows like Dr. Srinivas Kantivari, Chittaranjan Patra, Dr. Krishnaya, Dr. Sumana, and associate fellows Reddy Kamesh, Sanjeev Paul, and Kiran Mai, and also this Ravi Kiran. And similarly, young scientist Dr. Sweta, Dr. Vijaya, and also Dr. Sai Balaji. So these are some of the scientists who received recognitions, and also Dr. Sridhar, Excellence in Multidisciplinary Research, and Baldas, he became alumni ambassador of France for 23-25. Dr. Pratham also became fellow of Royal Society of Chemistry. Dr. Surya Prakash Singh, CRSI bronze medal. And in addition to that, 31 IICT scientists featured in Stanford University elite list. Again, congratulations to all my colleagues who received their recognitions and awards. And in addition to that, we also provide leaderships to other institutes. So very recently, Dr. Mohan Krishna Reddy Mudiyam of our institute became appointed as Director of Institute of Pesticides and Formulation Technology, IPFT, New Delhi. So here one recent one, and a few months ago, Dr. Ramanuj Narayan he became Director of another sister lab at CSIR-IICT Bhubaneswar. I'm happy to see here Dr. Ramanuj here, and also I would like to take some credit for IICT. IICT trained scientist, that is alumni of our institute. He became Director of CSIR-IGIB New Delhi. So these are all I wanted to show in front of you, and thank you all. And before handing over to our Dr. Jagdish, so I have 2-minute video for hydrogen hydrate that will show in front of all of you.
Indian Institute of Chemical Technology, located in the capital city of Telangana, Hyderabad, is an avant-garde research institute that specializes in chemical sciences and technology.
The hydrogen hydrate plant establishment in Gujarat, at Dahej. This hydrogen hydrate is a very important chemical that is used as a rocket fuel and also key starting material for APIs, crop chemicals, and many other ways. This is useful chemical. And right now we mostly depend on importing. In our institute, this plan was initiated, and now recently established that plant and dedicated to the nation by our Honorable Prime Minister Dr. Narendra Modi ji. This is going to save us a lot of foreign exchange. Almost, I think, 400 crores probably it is going to save us.
We have been developing new products. That brought us to a premier organization of Government of India, namely IICT. So we jointly developed a pilot project, and there were a lot of challenges, because earlier it was 40%, and then we had to increase the concentration to 80% because the demand suddenly switched from 40% to 80%. Earlier what we thought was 40%, which was very easy. But increasing its concentration to 80% was not easy because it is a hazardous product. And so here we are. We have filed a joint patent for this between the GACL and IICT.
The collaboration between GACL and CSIR-IICT concluded with a commercialization of the HH from the 10,000 tons per annum plant at the Dahej on July 8 by flagging off the first consignment.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your welcome address. I request Dr. Jagdish to kindly introduce the chief guest to the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Jagdish.
Dr. Srinivas Reddy, Director IICT, Professor Ramgopal Rao, the chief guest and distinguished speaker of this occasion, and directors of sister laboratories of CSIR, present and former colleagues of IICT, the students, and media. It's my privilege and honor to introduce Professor Ramgopal Rao, the chief guest and distinguished speaker on the occasion of 80th Foundation Day of IICT. Professor Ramgopal Rao hails from Kolhapur, a small town in Mehbubnagar district of Telangana state. He did his BTech from Kakatiya University and MTech from IIT Bombay in 1991. He did his PhD in electrical engineering from University of Bundeswehr at München, Germany in 1997, and postdoctoral fellow at UCLA, USA. Professor Rao is currently the Group Vice Chancellor of the Birla Institute of Science, Pilani campuses, located at Pilani, Hyderabad, Goa, Dubai, and Mumbai. Prior to joining the BITS group in 2023, Professor Rao had served as the director of IIT Delhi for 6 years during 2016 and 21, and as a faculty for 20 years at IIT Bombay, wherein he established a Center for Nanoelectronics and also launched several nanoelectronics programs in the country. Professor Rao is an internationally acclaimed nanoelectronics researcher with around 500 papers, 50 patents, and out of which 15 of his patents have been licensed to industries for commercialization. The IP on CMOS SoC, that is complementary metal oxide semiconductors systems on chip applications developed in his group, is now used in hundreds of millions of ICs sold all over the country, and we are using them in day-to-day electronics too. Professor Rao is a co-founder of 2 startups at IIT Bombay. That is, one is a NanoSnip and Soil Sense, which have successfully commercialized the products in the market. For his research accomplishments, Professor Rao has been elected as Fellow of IEEE and Fellow of the World Academy of Sciences, Indian National Academy of Engineering, Indian Academy of Sciences, the National Academy of Sciences, NACI, and INSA. He also produced 52 PhD students. He is a recipient of 3 honorary doctorates. He is also a recipient of Chancellor Bhatnagar Award in Engineering Sciences, Infosys Prize, and many national and international awards. Professor Rao serves on the editorial advisory board of several leading international journals such as ACS Nano Letters, Applied Physics Reviews, etc. Professor Rao delivered more than 20 plenary and keynote invited lectures all over the world. Innovative research and product development is always his mantra. Today, he's going to talk about how do we create an innovative-driven research ecosystem in higher educational institutes. With this, let us invite again Professor Rao for his enlightening lecture today.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Srinivas Reddy, for inviting me and all of you for hosting me here. I had come to IICT long time ago, not really recently. I have been with the BITS group for about 4 months now. So otherwise, I spent 25 years, as you have seen, 18 years at IIT Bombay and 7 years at IIT Delhi. So in this talk, I will talk a little bit about
creating this innovation-driven research ecosystem. So to me, innovation is about generating value for research. So that is how I define innovation. Research is, of course, we all know, generating new knowledge, but innovation is application of that knowledge for something which is of a societal benefit. So that's the definition I will use consistently for research and innovation in this lecture. Thank you. So let's look at the current status of the R&D. As we all know, India is actually doing pretty well in terms of publications. So that's third in the world. Everybody is talking about, but we are way behind China and the US in terms of percentages of India's share in scientific publications. In fact, way behind, but better than many others. And we're also one of the fastest growing countries, 11% in scientific publications as compared to the world average of 4%. So that way, we are indeed doing well. In fact, we're not spending enough money. Everybody knows that. But per dollar spent, Indians can write more papers than anyone else. So we are number one in that respect, better than China and all other countries. So that's the reason why our PhDs are in great demand for postdoc positions everywhere. So because Indians can write papers, so that's one good thing. And in fact, even in other metrics, and other things, we are in the top 10, except when it comes to innovation, where we are 40th. But even that 40th is all, a kind of a stage managed kind of innovation index. So, but otherwise, I don't think there is, a lot of innovation happening in the country. A lot of research is definitely happening, even good quality research. But innovation, I think, we all know that we have a long way to go to compete with some of the, advanced countries in that. So therefore, my point is we need to focus on impact and translation of knowledge. So while we have become the world's number one in terms of translating funds, wealth that is given to us into knowledge, so that we do very well now. But the reverse is not true. Translating that knowledge back into wealth, we really don't know how to do that. So that is where I think as a nation, as all of us, we have a responsibility and we need to deliver that. And having said that, so these are some of the things I was recently looking at Scopus, and so in any area you see, we are after all doing pretty well. Third, fifth, sensors, quantum, nano, bio. I think we are indeed doing very well in that. And even in terms of citations, we have now displaced many of these countries. We are at the seventh position in terms of citations. So the highly cited scientific papers country rankings. So I think the once you are publishing lots of papers, right, the citations and the quality will come. I think that is eventually linked to the quantum of research we do. Look at China. I think, though they are publishing a lot of junk, but at the end of the day, there is also quality research happening in China. So the same thing will also happen in India, though there are, papers, quality is of concern. But overall, out of so many publications we do, there will indeed be publications which will be of good quality. So I think that's kind of a thing that's happening. We're already ranked seventh now when it comes to citations and all that. So which is all good metrics. And the thing is, if you look at the startups in the country, particularly the unicorns, the companies which have $1 billion value sort of a thing, right? So we have now today about 107, 108 unicorns. From in fact, BITS Pilani, there are 14 unicorns among the alumni. One decacorn. Swiggy is a BITS Pilani unicorn. And also from IIT Delhi, which I headed earlier, there are like 33 unicorns out of just one single institute. So every third unicorn came out of IIT Delhi alumni. In fact, when I was at IIT Delhi, I was actually puzzled what is that IIT Delhi does differently that so many alumni, start companies and build them into unicorns. So that was something which was puzzling me. Like how come that every third company comes out of one single institute, IIT Delhi? So when I went through the list, it was always, the surnames were Agarwal, Bansal, Mittal, so they were the people. So IIT Delhi traditionally attracted students from the business families. So that was a cultural kind of a thing there. And these people came from the business communities, got a degree, went back to business. So that's all what they did. So they used IIT Delhi, just to get some kind of a respect in the society, but otherwise, they went back to what they were good at. Even in BITS Pilani, exactly the same story. Bansals, Mittals, Agarwals. So these are the people who started all of those kind of companies. So, but whatever it is, I think at the end of the day, that's a thing that has happened now, which is good for the country. But the biggest concern, for many is there is none which is a deep technology base. So these are all more like the aggregator model. There are so many things happening. Somebody comes, aggregates all of them, and then builds an app or something, and then starts selling things. So that's a kind of a model, whether it is Zomato or Ola or anything you take. And so those sort of unicorns are all what I call the business model innovations, right? But these are not really technology innovations. So that is the thing, which is the case with all our unicorns. So, but how do we actually get into these deep tech product-based innovations? Any product that you put out which becomes, that company becomes a unicorn. So those sort of things haven't happened in the country still. So that is, something. But how can that happen? For that to happen, we need to academic institutions need to step up
still.
and
So that is,
because a lot of
something. But how can that
in
happen?
these institutions
For that to happen,
IICTs,
we
IITs,
need to
and
academic.
these sort of institutions. So now out of this research should come some innovation which will now become a world class kind of a product, and then everybody will start buying that, and that's how we actually make it. So when you look at the academic institutions, so therefore the innovation is coming out of academic institutions is something of importance, whereas we have all become good at education, which is dissemination of whatever knowledge that is available, and research, which is a generation of new knowledge. So education and research, we are pretty much doing very well. But when it comes to innovation, that is where we tend to lag behind. And but while the same institutions can claim to have put out so many unicorns, but like I said, these are all not really technology kind of unicorns. So now in IIT Delhi, there are so many companies. Even in BITS, I see hundreds of companies. So most of them are again the aggregation kind of a model. So somebody is trying to bring all the Dobis together and start a app which will do that Dobi kind of a thing. Somebody is really bringing in all the plumbers. Somebody is doing, so that sort of unicorns are a plenty right now. That kind of companies are a plenty. So how does but for innovation to happen in the deep tech space, our PhD students need to start doing innovation, entrepreneurship. And you look at all your PhD students, not even 1% of them are actually looking at entrepreneurship as an option. They're all looking for postdocs, and all our PhD programs, have also evolved to produce university professors, right? Other than that, our PhD programs aren't really training anyone, to do anything other than that. So we are all, university professor producing kind of institutions through our PhD programs. So how do we change that? In fact, very soon, at least in BITS Pilani, we are launching now a PhD program for startup track. So PhD students who can become entrepreneurs, who can become startup founders. So for that, the entire training process, the mindset, the attitudes, from the beginning, we want to drive them so that at least out of PhDs, our goal is to produce 100 unicorns kind of a thing. In IIT Delhi also, I tried, and I will mention a little bit of it as part of my talk. So that is what we need to do. How do we drive our scientists and PhD students to become startup founders? So so here again, since my title talked about it, so R&D ecosystem inadequacies in India for innovation, there are a lot of challenges. If I have done it twice, I have two successful companies. These are all valued at 50 crores to 100 crores kind of a valuations right now. Nowhere close to those unicorns and all that, but they at least have products in the market and people are buying them, buying products out of this. But there are lots of challenges right now, and these challenges are only growing by the day. One thing which I see as the big challenge is we are not spending enough money on research. Now, maybe in CSIR labs, you might see a little bit more money, but in other places, it's very tough to get any decent money. And as a percentage of GDP wise, if you look at India, India is here. If you are trying to search where India is, we are only above Pakistan, Philippines, Mexico, Sri Lanka. So that's the company we are in right now. So we are really not spending much money on research, and so that I see is one of the biggest challenges. The countries which are spending the highest in terms of percentage GDP are Israel and Korea Republic, the South Korea. So you can imagine why these countries are all innovation driven kind of economies. And even large countries like China, above 2% kind of a investment. I was recently looking on the Chinese university websites. What, for example, Peking University and Tsinghua University, the two universities in China, receive as funding from their ministry is the entire MHRD funding. So that is the kind of a difference in scale between how much China is funding their universities as compared to what India is doing. And MHRD funds about 140 or 150 institutions right now. So China is giving that equivalent of money to just two universities in China, Peking and Tsinghua. So obviously, with that kind of resources provided, a lot of good things are happening there. So this is one thing which definitely needs to change. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened so far. And so if even if there is a nice the gross expenditure on R&D per capita income, India is here. This is even adjusted to purchase parity in dollars. So adjusted to purchase parity, we are spending this much of money per capita on research. But look at some of these countries, United States, at least this much of money they spend, and everybody is doing so well, and we are just above Indonesia that way. So I think that is a situation with India when it comes to funding. So we definitely, I hope somebody will come and then start investing on scientists in this country. The second thing is we are not filing enough patents, right? Despite, in the CSIR labs, I know there is a culture of filing patents and all that, but in many academic institutions, it is still not there, right? So in nanotechnology, which is my area, I actually looked at how did India do in 2019. In 2019, India wrote, this is before COVID time, 15,000 kind of papers we wrote. We are ranked third in the world, right? And then how many patents did we file out of this many papers? 54 patents. In the same year, look at US, like wrote about 24,000 papers, ranked second in the world, and filed something like close to 5,000 patents. So for every 5 papers in the US, they file a patent. For every 5 papers. In India, for every 300 papers, we file a patent. Right? In institutions, you can see in IIT Delhi, that number was about 1:50 kind of a thing. So for every 50 papers, we were filing one patent, and then we brought it down. When I left IIT Delhi, it was like 18 papers, we were filing one patent. So all that needed was a little bit of educating the researchers and reducing the time frames in filing a patent, because in every research PhD students are involved, and you cannot tell a PhD student wait for a year to submit a paper, because I want to file a patent. Nobody will have that kind of a patience. So once we brought down that patent filing time to couple of months, then everybody started filing patents. It was all, that was all what was needed to have more patents coming out of an academic system. Just reduce the time it takes to file a patent, and 2 months everybody is willing to wait. That is what we need to do. IIT Delhi was filing about 15 to 18 patents per year until 2016, and in 2022 when I left, IIT Delhi filed about 173 patents in 2022. And this year, if things are going in the same direction, should file about 200 patents per year right now. So I think that potential exists in our institutions, but that awareness is completely lacking. And then when you want to start a company, particularly in these technology areas, if you don't have a patent, nobody will touch you. No investor, nobody will even come forward to invest in your company, because the first thing they see is, do you own the IP, for what you are claiming as a technology? And if you IP, there is no startup, there is nothing that can come beyond that. So filing patents in technology areas is a first step to startups in the deep technology space, and the unicorns and all of that is is a far-reaching kind of a consequence of that. So therefore, this is one thing. The second issue that we see, India needs to file more and more patents, particularly quality patents. The patents coming out of some institution which is more for some ranking kind of purposes, doesn't serve any purpose, because most of those patents I know will eventually get rejected or eliminated, because that doesn't matter. But patents coming out of IICT or IIT Delhi, 99% of these patents will get accepted, and there is some merit in these patents, and some of these patents can become companies later, and therefore out of our good institutions we must file more and more patents. And another third aspect, which is a big challenge here in India, is the choosing the research problems in academia and the siloed kind of an approach. I actually did an informal survey among the institutions I know of, and at least 70 to 100% of problems that we give to our PhD students actually originate in library. Right. The first thing that happens is we tell the student, to do a research survey. Student goes to library and then reads, 100 papers, comes back and says, this is done, this is done, this is not done. And then we do that and publish the next paper. So to at least in some universities, 100% papers, 100% PhD topics come out of library. In good or better institutions, maybe 70% kind of a thing. That is because nobody is asking us to do anything in academia. Maybe IICT, CSIR system is better, but when it comes to IITs and IISc or other academic institutions, the pure academic institutions, nobody is expecting anything from us. So in the absence of anybody expecting anything from us, we can choose our own problems and we can spend our lifetime working on those problems. And so that is because industry is not really coming forward to work with us. And ministries, which are the ministries which interact with IIT, the Ministry of Education, what problems they have? They have no problems of their own. And then the other ministry which comes is Ministry of Science and Technology. What problem the DST will have, which are their own. They also don't have their own problems. So that way, we are free to choose our own problems, get funding from our own colleagues, right? And then, keep writing papers. So that is a vicious circle we have created for ourselves. As a result, so this is what is currently the reality in all our higher educational kind of institutions. In US, for example, I worked there for a few years, and every problem you choose, some industry comes and says that I am in the semiconductor area, says that I am doing this processing, I am developing this device, I am finding this problem, I am finding this anomalous behavior in my devices. My devices are breaking down when I apply this voltage. Can you find out what is going wrong? Right? That is a problem. That problem, as a researcher, nobody had in the world. Only I had, because that industry came and spoke with me and told me that this is a problem they are facing in their process line. Once you are given such a kind of a problem, of course you can write tons of papers, you can file patents, and you naturally your work will be of interest to the industry and to the entire world, and the technology and all of that will come about. So unless that kind of an interaction happens, I don't think this situation will ever change. And unless the ministries which have the problems, like Ministry of Roads, Ministry of Heavy Industries, Ministry of so many other ministries which have problems, if they interact with academic institutions, we don't even know what problems are actually there in the society. And unfortunately, most of these ministries have started their own institutions. So they are all funding now within their institutions kind of a thing. And that is another problem I never understood. Why should Ministry of Food Processing have their own institutions, to do food processing kind of a thing? They could have instead engaged with existing institutions, the IITs and IICTs, and there is so much of expertise here. Right. So this is the kind of a problem that we have. Every ministry which has problems has its own tiny set of institutions, and everything is within the family. So that's how it actually works. And the second thing is even finding problems from society, right? Whatever is happening in the society. If you are looking at finding a problem from the society, India has all the problems of the world. Right? If you are looking for a problem, you don't have to go to America in search of a problem. Just look around you, you find a problem. But then our society connect is also missing. Our only connect in IITs for society is the humanities and social science departments. Otherwise, professors are happy, with the machines and their laboratories, right? So but then the humanities and social sciences department, they are also not really collaborating with the engineering departments, and that is again another challenge. So this is again some problem. At IIT Delhi, we started programs. We set grassroots innovation program where we set students who come from a certain region can they take up the problems of that region and use the resources available in IIT to deliver solutions? Because in IITs particularly, you get students from all over the country, and when they come from the country, from a region, let's say some region, if there are 10 students in IIT, can they come together, identify some problems of their region, and then use the IIT resources to work on some solutions, and then develop something for that region? That way, we would have become known not just for the students coming to this place, but also for having solved some of the problems where the students come from. So that was a kind of a program that we launched, and the rural internships, the immersion programs, a lot of things we do, but that's a there is no end to that. You need to do more of that, and that connect with the society is very important. And again, the industry connect is again very, very critical. And so this, I think you all know, I don't have to tell you, but we started this professors of practice positions, where having industry professionals work as professors. I started it even in BITS also. One advertisement, 200 industry professionals applied, saying that we want to become POPs now. So I think there is so much of interest from industries to work with academia. So creating avenues for them to interact with us, probably can go a long way. And strategic agencies, DRDO, ISRO, many of these agencies, even ministries. At IIT Delhi, we started a joint advanced technology center with DRDO. They gave us almost like 300 crores of money, and there are today 100 professors, 150 PhD students working on DRDO defined problems. And that way, at least something is coming out which can help DRDO eventually. I think this is what we need to do. So moving away from library, right, at least in some percentage of cases, and picking up problems from society, industry, and strategic agencies is one thing that as a cultural thing. And if we can institutionalize that process, that's even better. But that is the kind of a direction that we need to move. So that's one thing which is required. And then the fourth problem, that I see happening is our top talent is not doing deep science. All of them want to do computer science. So for them, whether science is all computer science, there is no other science other than computer science. So that is the big challenge that we are facing right now. But to develop such advanced technologies, everything that is happening in the phones, look at the number of Nobel prizes behind a simple mobile phone, right? You can actually list out all the Nobel prizes which have gone into developing a mobile phone. Everything that mobile phone you see today, there are Nobel prizes from physics and chemistry went into that. The display got a Nobel Prize, wireless technology got a Nobel Prize, battery got a Nobel Prize, memory got a Nobel Prize, processor got a Nobel Prize, the polymers, transistors. So these inventions in science have essentially enabled these technologies. And if our top talent doesn't do science, you cannot really expect to suddenly become a technology superpower one day. I think that's not going to happen. So what kind of incentives we can provide to our students to do science, right? I think that's again strengthening the science programs is one thing which is again very critical for us to move in the direction of innovation. The fifth problem is also the missing institutional frameworks. The university research ends at TRL 4. Maybe CSIR labs can come up to 5 or something, right? And then the commercialization, the industries get interested at 8 kind of a thing. This valley of death, that we don't even have any institutions working with us right now. So the if there are some sort of individuals, right, who can tunnel through this and then enter the commercialization, but those tunneling probabilities are all very, very low. 1 out of 100 might escape this valley and reach the commercialization stage. That is what we see as the success stories, from our institutions. But we don't have an institutional process to actually bridge the gap. And after my term at IIT Delhi ended, I actually wanted to create this. I wanted to create institutions in the country, which can bridge that valley of that depth. I went to some of our big corporates saying that can we create a laboratory, right, whose job is to pick up technologies which are present in the available in the academia at TRL 3 or 4 kind of levels, and then you acquire the technology, right? You bring in the faculty team, involve them, and then boost the TRL to 7, 8 with the help of industry professionals, and then you either start a company out of that or you license the technology to an industry. So I wanted to create those labs, right? Depending on whichever corporate I went, I called them their labs. When I went to Tata's, I called them Tata Labs. When I went to Reliance, I called them Geo Labs. When I went to Indian government, I said India Labs. we need to create these kind of laboratories right now. And without those labs which are working on such TRL boosters kind of a thing, I think this gap will exist, and except for a few individuals who can tunnel through this kind of a valley, all others will not be able to do that. So that is one thing. As a country we need to do that. We need to create such laboratories, and I am struggling, I am trying, but hopefully, in fact, I went to Ministry of Electronics. I said, can we create a sensor hub? So a sensor hub, because there are so many technologies, people are working on sensors, all of them are at proof of concept kind of a stage. Let us create a sensor hub in the country. Let's hire industry professionals. Let's put in place all the facilities, which can actually do technology development kind of a thing out of these proof of concepts. And then let us start companies out of that. So they sanctioned money, and then we called for a proposals. We received about 140 proposals in the census area, as against a call from the Ministry of Electronics. 140 proposals where the TRLs were all at 4 kind of a level. And then obviously in a ministry, the secretary changed, who was in favor of that. Now the next secretary came, and then he had his own questions, and then nothing has moved after that. But again, these are the kinds of challenges. So this is where a lot of technologies die right now, and that is something that we need to do in the country as another kind of a thing. And also, though we are talking about academia industry interaction, we just a wishful thinking. Every minister comes and gives a lecture on why academia and industry should collaborate with each other, but there is no policy push, right? I have been advocating for a percentage of CSR to be mandatorily spent on academic research in academia, right? So a percentage of CSR, I mean, whatever 2%, say that 0.5% of CSR must be spent on academia in collaborations with academic institutions. Once you mandate that, I can tell you, the whole nation, every industry is starting to work with academia. I always say that, we are waiting for, some love marriage to happen between academia and industry, and that love marriage is not happening. I mean, after all, we don't like each other at the end of the day. But, what is best to do is actually arrange a marriage between them, right, forcefully, and then they will find love, right? That's what happens in all Indian marriages, right? So I think that kind of a thing, unless there is a policy push to bring academia and industry together today, after 70 years, that preaching or waiting for that love marriage is not happening. At least do that something right now, and then bring them together. And I can tell you, eventually we will like each other. So that's the thing. And but then somehow everybody is very shy of doing that, in the government. And I actually went to MPs saying that, can you push something like that and all that. But their immediate answer is, Professor Rao, if I say that, then industry might see that I am anti-corporate, or my own government might think I am anti-industry, and in future I may not become a minister of anything. So that, because related to the ministry, because how can I force industry to do something? So that is a kind of a mindset that exists now. You want to be very lenient with the industries and all of that, but nothing is happening. No industry is really coming forward to do anything with academia right now. So again, that is something that hopefully should happen. And I will not get into that, but and then too much of bureaucracy. Now, this is something which I have written about. I have taken it up. I am sure you recognize all of that. I don't have to tell you. As one of you was saying me, it's easy to get money from government. It's more difficult to spend the money now. So that is what it has come down to. So whether it is a GFR, the GEM portal, the single treasury account, the curbs on imports, the ministry approvals, it takes 11 months now to buy an equipment in IIT Delhi, full 11 months just to place the order. So now how do you actually execute a project with 11 months taken just to import anything from 5 lakhs to 200 crores? You have to get a permission from the Secretary, Ministry of Education. Now, why do I need to go to Secretary, Ministry of Education to get to buy some scientific equipment which is approved by DST? I never could figure it out. So that's something. Subcritical funding, disproportionate expectations, lack of motivation. Now there are no, even I don't think even the Bhatnagar Prize exists right now. I've been asking people where is the call kind of a thing. And then leadership challenges, fractured funding. As long as I do research, I get funding. If I start a company, I become untouchable. Now I cannot go back to the same agency. Now I have to go after other agencies. I think these are the kinds of challenges that we exist right now, but India has so much of potential. I just hope, some of these we will overcome and solve that. So these are the kinds of things that need to change. And I am sure someday somebody will come and change these things. But until that happens, I don't know how to. Only a few will be able to go beyond that valley of death and do things and put out technologies into the market. I have another 15 minutes also, so I think I have said enough negative things now. So I am so now I don't have to go back to Delhi. I need to only go back to Pilani. So that's okay. So the so the so now the let's go into some of the positive things, right? What are the like I told you, in educational institutions there are three things: education, knowledge generation, and innovation, right? And how does the knowledge become innovation? As I told you, that there has to be a relevance to the problem you are working on. If you want to start a company, right, you have to work on a problem which is relevant to the society, right? And then you have to have a process to deliver that. The delivery can happen either through interactions with the industry or through your own startups, right? These are the only two ways you can deliver the technology. So that R&D to me is relevance and delivery. If you can do that, lot of knowledge that we are generating can actually become innovation. So these are the things that that can happen. And I call these the 5 T's. India, if you look at where India has done very well, India has done very well in all mission mode projects. Wherever somebody defined clear goals, clear definition of the problem, India has succeeded. Why did ISRO succeed, in the country? Because ISRO, you may have any number of labs, right? At the end of the day, what you do needs to go into the satellite, and the satellite has to fly, right? As long as that problem is very well defined, India has succeeded. Take the case of atomic energy. You do whatever you want. At the end of the day, you need to build atomic reactors and maintain them, right? There we have succeeded. So any program that you name, India has only succeeded where clear goals and mission approach is taken. But if you leave it to researchers, then we go in all different directions. If there are 700 faculty in IIT, we will work on 500 different problems, and nobody can stop me from doing that. So whereas that is a difference right now. So setting clear goals, therefore, is very important for India, right? And that approach is completely missing. And unfortunately, at the national level, nobody is setting clear goals to all our laboratories, all our institutions, saying that this is what we want to do, this is the money, and the problem is already defined now. Now you tell us how you will contribute to this problem, right? That kind of an approach we don't really take anywhere, because some IAS guy, what goals they can set for a researcher. So that is a big challenge that that currently exists right now. So, but IT, we have the technology platforms. I say that these are the platforms which can enable a lot of deep technology startups now, right? So IT, of course, we have doing very well. We are Saudi Arabia when it comes to IT, right? And then BT, the biotechnology, also we are doing very well. We all know that. And nanotechnology, we are ranked third, right? But here there is a lot of knowledge generation happening. There is not much of commercialization that has taken place, right? And then the cognitive technology, AI, ML, India ranks 5th in the world right now for AI, ML citations. But again, here we are the largest consumers of all these technologies, the AI, ML, but we are not really developing or contributing much to generation of wealth. The final thing is the quantum technologies. Again, India has launched a mission, right? But again, here again, so we will publish more papers. That definitely will happen. But out of those papers need to become, some technologies need to come out which can create jobs. If a technology mission doesn't generate jobs, right, then it is not sustainable. What happens if you start a quantum technology? All our institutions will start BTech, MTech, PhD programs in quantum technology. We start producing so many graduates. Now they will come out of the institutions after 5 years. But where are the jobs now? So you cannot spend your entire life publishing papers and earning money. So that can only happen in faculty positions. Less than 10% of PhD students will find faculty positions. That is how it, even in the US, for example, only about 10% of PhDs go to academia. 90% of them find jobs in the industries. And in India, that industry part of it is completely missing. As a result, now we will overproduce PhDs in all of these areas, and they will not find jobs, and then those areas will die down, and that program will also end, and then we will move on to the next program. That is what is happening. But what is actually required is, when you do a quantum technology, you need a roadmap where that handshake between research and innovation, right? I am a researcher. I have developed some technology in quantum in 3 years' time. Now, if I want to start a company, the same program needs to also support me to start a company and for my scale up of my technology. If you do that, then I will generate some technologies out of it. I will start some companies. These companies will employ the students that I am producing, the country is producing, and that is how that area will grow. But in India, that research and innovation link is completely missing. So the DST, for example, cannot fund you when once you start a company. They will tell you to go to TDB, right? But TDB will have its own problem sets, and they will not fund you just because you worked on a DST problem and developed a technology. The program advisory committee which funded your project ceases to exist the moment you start a company, right? That cannot happen. I mean, the same agencies need to handhold you, until that research becomes a technology or something, a product in the market, and a company starts and scale up happens, and then the private investors will come in. All of that needs to be a process, and we have so many that discontinued in continued kind of processes, which is, even if you start any of these missions, finally they end up publishing more papers, producing more students, and again worrying for more jobs. And in the absence of all jobs, any jobs in any of these areas, the students have only IT to rely on, right? I mean, therefore, you cannot blame the students to look for CSC jobs and IT jobs, because that's the only place where the jobs are available. And that is a big challenge, and that is where, at least I have been writing articles and pushing this research to innovation kind of an integration. Until that happens, this problem will continue to persist in the country. And so that is one thing. And so I will tell you now a little bit about my own work. Maybe I have 10 minutes kind of a thing. So I started my career in nanoscale devices, right? I also do a lot of work which has no relevance. I just publish papers. No, nobody has read them. So that happens like any of the researchers. But at least in 50% of papers, I had collaborators. So because I came back from working in good places in the US, I brought with me some of these contacts from these industries. And after I moved to India, there they used to give $100,000. In India, they give $20,000, which is okay. So at least you get some money, you hire some PhD students, and then you start working with the industry. So I did this with Intel, all of these big American companies. And I actually worked with Intel for 20 years for their research on their research projects, which did very well. In fact, Intel recently sent me a letter, appreciating the work I did, and they said what I did actually resulted in hundreds of millions of devices that they sold. Had the technologies we developed jointly with them, resulted in 10 patents licensed to them. So I think some of these worked well, but what has India benefited? Nothing much. These are all with Intel in the US, right? And so they used that IP and then developed technologies, made things better. So which is okay. So there is some satisfaction as a researcher when it comes to that. And I started realizing that, what I am doing in these technologies has no relevance in the country. Then I started to see, can I do something which has relevance in the country? So around 2005, 2006 kind of a time frame, I very consciously decided to move, to sensors area, because I realized that sensors is one field where everybody needs technologies, the sensing platforms. Even mobile phones have so many sensors these days. So I essentially started to work on sensors. Right. This is how I found my feet on the in the ground, in India. Otherwise, there are people, I know my colleagues, where they haven't actually come back to India. They physically they may have come back, but they are still working on the same problems they started as PhD students or postdocs in the US. But at least I made a transition, made an effort to transition to what India needs in around 2005, 2006 time frame. And then I started combining these, and I did a lot more work on that. But in this talk, I will talk about the census work that I primarily was involved in. And I always, also took this, once I started to work on sensors in 2005, when I started my first foray into sensors, I was very clear that, I wanted to start a company. I wanted to get these technologies out into the market. So I was very clear that whatever I do, I will have a system orientation. I will not, for example, just synthesize a material for the purpose of publishing a paper, right? I will synthesize a material, I will do all the experiments, I will build a system out of that material, I will get it tested in the field, and then if it all successful, I will try to get it out into the market. That was my end goal of whatever projects that I had chosen in the sensors field. So that system orientation is very critical if you want to ever, get a develop a full technology or a product that can go into the market. So that is what I did. And of course, I will again skip this. But the reason why I chose sensors was I saw in 2005 that the mobile phones, cannot just be to make calls. That won't be the case. Mobile phones is such a powerful platform. They will integrate a lot of technologies inside them, and that is how things have also happened. Whether it is ECG to heart rate to blood pressure to so many things are getting onto the mobile phone platform. And but when you are looking for sensors, there are so many things again you can work on. For example, the agriculture is one area. Healthcare is another area where you can do sensing platforms. You can do, for example, security, energy. So everything is a problem where you require sensors. So I started to work on, I started my career with the security area. So I thought we will work on the security related sensors. India is actually doing pretty well, when it comes to the sensors. We have grown exponentially. The fall here is because of the COVID, but that should go back again. But India, whether it is citations or sensors, India has a strong tradition of doing good sensors research. So we were not leveraging that enough, unfortunately, and that is what at least I am also trying nationally to launch some initiatives and all that. And all these sensors, even if you look at the and that is what these studies, the sensors sold per year, right? People are predicting trillion sensor kind of visions. Every year, 1 trillion sensors will be sold. Why is it important? Because it's all the connected world, right? So people are talking of this IoT, the Internet of Things kind of a world. And each sensor, if you take it, even if you take $1 per sensor, you are talking of $1 trillion market for sensors alone. The entire semiconductor market today is 600 billion US dollars. The sensors market alone will be 1 trillion US dollars. So that's the kind of a potential that exists for the sensors. And India needs to play a much bigger role, at least in the we can become the world leaders given the kind of science base that we have in the sensors area. But when you are talking about sensors, the sensors need to become IoTs. Most of our research happens in terms material, because selectivity is one thing which is the most important characteristic for sensors, and most of these materials they fail on the selectivity front. And so if you can make sense something selectively, there is a market for that, but that market will arise only when you develop it as a full IoT node and an Internet of Things node. What is an IoT node? An IoT node is a physical thing embedded with electronics, software. It of course has a sensor, but its own power source, network connectivity. It has to become a complete system, right? It has to become a complete system like that, and you need to miniaturize and then for that give an application and all of that. But we don't really reach this level. Most of the work is just material exposure and publication of a paper. And so this system oriented approach will require you to work with all of these people. You need material scientists, application specialists, engineers, particularly scientists, social scientists. A lot of such work into multidisciplinary team is required to develop a complete system out of these sensors kind of a research. And the cost is also very important. Indian market is very sensitive to cost. So if you want to mass manufacture and mass sell anything, the cost need to be kept pretty low, and that is where what materials you use for the sensors, what is the platform with which you are developing makes all the difference. Now, if you have a very expensive platform, maybe DRDO might buy a few of those sensors, but at large scale you won't be able to make a market out of those sensors. So you need to, while developing the platform, you need to be very clear what the intended market is and what the cost point is, and these things need to be decided upfront. If I am developing a sensor for explosive detection, where am I going to use it? Is that sensor explosive detector going to be used in a mall or in a DRDO kind of a lab, or is it going to be used in an airport? I think that the clarity is very important in terms of choice of platform, choice of materials. All of that needs to go into that. And so So this is what I started working. My very first project, once I started to decide on work on a sensors thing, is I wanted to work on the cardiac diagnostic system. That came up because in IIT Bombay, when we were doing some MTech interviews, one faculty member had a heart problem. And then, we took the person to hospital, and the doctor said, it would have really helped if there is a technology where if somebody comes complaining of chest pain, within an hour, right, I can do some simple blood test and rule out the cardiac problem, because chest pain can be because of multiple reasons. And if there is a simple point of care kind of a system with just some blood analysis in the bedside, if I can diagnose the cardiac condition, I could have taken immediate care and provided all the kind of prevention and everything. So that's what the doctors started talking to us and telling us all of that, because at that time the blood sample needed to be sent to a hospital. The pathology lab was not in the hospital for cardiac test. It had to be sent to nearby hospital. And in Bombay, considering Bombay traffic, he said it will take me at least 4 hours now to get the samples for the patient. And until that time, I cannot even do anything. So I will have to just put that person under observation and all of that. So he said, if you guys had done something like that, would have helped me right here, kind of a thing. So that was a trigger for developing something like a cardiac diagnostic kit. Then we started understanding what exactly is needed. So cardiac markers are all like troponin, CKMB, myoglobin kind of markers measured in the blood. These are all the blood proteins. So we started to look at how do you detect these proteins in the blood. So then we said we will do a complete system. We called it iSense, standing for infarct sensor. The myocardial infarction. So infarct sensor. And then we said take the blood sample, filter it out, the microfluidic channels, the biosensor array, the entire thing is a disposable, a small tabletop system, exactly like the glucose testing we do at homes now, a strip and then a small electronic system. So this system should detect at least 2 markers like troponin, myoglobin kind of a thing. So that was a project that we took, and then we had a multidisciplinary kind of a team to work on it. I am an electrical engineer, so all the electronics part we said we will do, and also work on some of these platforms. But then we had biologists, we had chemists, we had chemical engineers, mechanical engineers. So we formed a group of faculty from 7 different departments at IIT Bombay. That was the first time so many departments came together, to actually work on a project. So that was way back in 2005. And then once we did that, in my group, I started working on this cantilever platform. So because it's a disposable chip, I did not want to use silicon. Otherwise, I am a silicon person. So I said silicon one-time use. It's a blood sample. So you can reuse that. So one-time use silicon will not be a good platform. So we started working on a polymer platform, a piezoresistive polymers. So you have a completely made out of polymer, the entire chip. You have the piezoresistor here, put the antibodies. When these antibodies bind to the protein, the reaction is what gives rise to a surface stress. The stress will cause a strain, and strain will change the resistance of the piezoresistor. Therefore, electrically, how much of deflection is happening because of the chemical reaction happening on the surface. So that was the platform. Then because we wanted to move away from silicon, our project became very interesting. Nobody was working on piezoresistive polymer cantilever platforms. So our research became unique. So we had PhD students because these are polymers, the maximum process temperatures need to be 150 degrees kind of a thing, not more than that. And at 150 degrees centigrade to deposit a piezoresistor with a high gauge factor and all that are again technology challenges. So doing the entire processing for the chip, at 150 degrees or below, was a challenge by itself, because for silicon people, 1000 degrees is okay. But for this kind of technology, the same deposition techniques at 150 degrees won't work well. So you had to innovate in terms of process, innovate in terms of integration. So the project became very interesting. And then we had multiple PhD students working on it. And then so we worked on multiple platforms. Since I don't have time, I won't get into. But all of this work we published in good papers. We even made these polymers embedded with nanowires, and then we used graphene as a piezoresistor. We integrated even an organic transistor on a polymer cantilever. So we did a lot of innovation, did many interesting things, and published lots of papers. And we also showed that this is the most sensitive platform in the world because it's a polymer. It's very flexible to any surface stress. Per nanometer of deflection, the change in the resistance in parts per million we showed 128 deflection sensitivity as compared to anything which has been published until that time. So therefore, work got pretty interesting. A lot of people started citing. So it all became interesting. And then the electronics we developed for detecting that piezo resistance changes to chemical reaction. So that was because our goal was to develop the complete system. And then we, with the help of Industrial Design Center at IIT Bombay, we put our first system together, developed under the NPSM, it's a DRDO program. So it was it was the iSense we called it. So it can actually, the cartridge, and it can detect two markers. So that is what we demonstrated. It actually worked pretty well in the laboratory kind of conditions, and then we started testing it in the hospitals. That is a time when we were all in a hurry to start a company because we wanted to be seen as doing that kind of a work. So we started a company in 2011. The NanoSniff is the first company incubated at IIT Bombay along with some of my colleagues, and then we developed it, and but then they said you need to do field trials now, so the hospital trials. Then we started approaching hospitals, and all those doctors were very favorable when they spoke with us. But once it went to ethics committee, they all started creating a lot of different things. So the language was entirely different once they sat on the ethics committee. So it started taking time. Now we have started a company, hired people, and then the hospitals are asking for a lot of other requirements. So we did not know how to move forward, and it was not very easy. So once it became a little bit of a challenge for the company, then we said, but we have a nice platform which can detect surface chemical reactions. So any binding that is happening on the cantilever, we can detect electrically, very reliably, very well. So we said, can we use the same platform for explosive detection? And then that is when we started to go into the principal scientific advisor office, funded, saying that the same cantilevers you use, but find the coatings for the cantilevers which can selectively bind to the vapors of explosive. That was the project. You are all, many chemists in the room, so I don't want to get into too many of these details. So I worked with a lot of chemists in the country, and particularly at IIT Bombay chemistry department, I worked with many people, and I at least wrote 50 papers. We working with chemists, the good thing is you write lots of papers. So I wrote I wrote 50 papers with as an electrical engineer with my chemistry colleagues at IIT Bombay, and we tried lots of materials. And in fact, Pula Rao even synthesized for us calaxarines, which can selectively bind to TNT and all that. So we did a very interesting work, but no material was selective enough. That was a challenge. And then we said, can we actually move to an electronic nose kind of an approach where instead of one cantilever, you have an array of cantilevers, and each cantilever coated with a different molecule. So therefore, the pattern that you generate when you expose this entire array to an explosive material is what you record, right? Pre-record, and then start comparing it with. So we started to develop an electronic nose platform out of multiple cantilevers for this purpose. And so we started using multiple, again, different materials for this application. We actually showed an XNIF platform. So this particular platform has an array of cantilevers, coated, and we developed the entire electronic signal conditioning, and then with pattern recognition. All of those technologies have gone into that, and it actually works again. So we gave it to security agencies, and they said, sir, it works up to 75%, 80% accuracy, but in 20% of cases, there are false positives. So they did not like it. They said that every 2 out of 10 tests, it doesn't work, in the field. And then we came back to the drawing board. We said, now how do you improve the selectivity now, that false positive kind of a rate? That is when we stumbled upon. So we again, once we came back to the lab, all the chemistry approaches we evaluated, different coatings and everything, so did not really go up to 100% or at least 95%, which was required. And that is when we started to relook at the entire explosive detection. We asked ourselves, what is the property of an explosive? The property of an explosive is to explode, right? So can you actually collect a few nanograms of this explosive either through the vapor or through a swipe, right? And you actually explode that, right? How do you explode it? You give a thermal shock to this material. You cause a deflagration by giving a rapid heating with a micro heater, and then the deflagration will generate heat, right? By integrating a temperature sensor, you are now measuring the thermal signature of the deflagration. So that thermal signature for explosives is very different from the normal materials. So therefore, you can now, by analyzing the thermal signature, you can actually detect the explosive. It's all physics. There is no chemistry here, and physics will never fail. So that is one good thing about physics. So we then moved completely to a physics-based approach. So we started making those thermal heaters, the micro heaters, and we started making these tiny mechanical kind of switches. So this is the explosive, this is like that sensor which basically rapidly heats the explosive and causes the deflagration, measures the thermal signature. So before that, it is nice. When it sees explosive, the entire sensor is gone. And by miniaturizing this entire platform, we could come down to about 10 nanograms of detection. So with 10 nanograms, you can now capture the signature of this explosive. So that required a lot of innovation in terms of making the device. I have a small video here. Maybe if it plays, that will be nice. So just need to play this video. There's no link. Okay. Just go. Can you go to YouTube here instead of Nano Sniffer? Just a 2-minute video, but Nano Sniffer. Yeah, Nano Sniffer. Play this video.
You,
No, that's
and
not.
you all
No,
are fired.
no, that's a advertisement.
And
you don't like it.
you are promoted.
Okay, that's
Behant
good.
Technologies, an IIT Delhi incubated company, and NanoSniff, an IIT Bombay incubated company, jointly manufacture and launch NanoSniffer, an advanced and affordable. Behant Technologies, an IIT Delhi incubated company, and NanoSniff, an IIT Bombay incubated company, jointly manufacture and launch NanoSniffer, an advanced and affordable explosive trace detector, screening visitors and passengers for explosives at various public or crowded spots have become the norm due to the increase in the terrorist activities around the globe. Every luggage and person passing through the security checkpoint is tested by the security officer to check whether they have traces of explosives on their surface, skin or hair. NanoSniffer proudly claims to be the first explosive trace detector in the world using microsensor technology. The microsensor of NanoSniffer is made using micro-electromechanical system, MEMS technology in semiconductor fab. The sensor uses fabrication techniques such as lithography, etching, deposition, spin coating, and finally released to the microsensor. The core technology is protected by patents in the US and Europe. All of our actions leave trace behind, which is then screened by the security personnel. The security has to concentrate at the sampling areas that are likely to be touched by hands. In the case of a bag, this will include handle, buckle, and zipper. Post-sampling, the swipe is inserted into the system where microheater subjects the particles into rapid heating. In case of explosives, this trigger exothermic reactions which are picked up by the integrated temperature sensor of the microheater, thereby landing each compound in its own thermal signature. The algorithms use these signatures to distinguish between explosives and non-explosives. Further analysis of the algorithms help in categorization into the appropriate class of explosives. The follow are few NanoSniffer features. It is the first microsensor-based ETD. It detects and identifies explosives in less than 10 seconds. Identifies and categorizes explosives into different classes. Can detect ng quantities of explosives traces. It detects all classes of military, conventional and homemade explosives. It is portable and affordable. It gives visible and audible alerts with sunlight-readable color display. NanoSniffer, explosives trace detection technology, can be deployed at airports, railway stations, ports, malls, metro stations, corporate parks, hotels, and tourist spots. The goal is to intercept and prevent access of explosives trafficking. NanoSniffer is 100% made in India product.
Yeah, that's it.
few nano sniffer features.
No,
It is the first.
go back to. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Okay. So we got it launched with the Minister of Education at that time, and so now it's doing pretty well. We have all the patents now, the worldwide patents, and this we are also now 20 nano sniffers. 11 airports have bought this technology. So now it's a totally disruptive technology. We don't have any competition at this point anywhere in the world, and it's a because of the US patent and all those patents we have been granted. So it's doing very well. So we are winning all the tenders now, and many airports are buying. We are getting orders even for export. And so nano sniffer, the nano sniff, the company that we started is doing very well because of this now. So but it took almost 10 years of research. We started it in 2010 to 2020. We were able to launch the product. So the full 10 years, because we were trying so many approaches, and finally this particular approach worked for us. And once the company has taken over and now making a market out of that, so in my group we started miniaturizing it further. And so the idea here is to develop a platform that you can network in the buses, trains, and everywhere, and even power the sensor like an IoT, from the energy released from all these places, from the vibration energy in the buses and trains. And so we worked on the piezoelectrics, and so a lot of interesting work happened, and a lot of good papers also came out of that sort of work. But the focus was on the system, so on that IoT kind of a platform. And once now the explosives I don't work anymore. Only the company does all the work now. But I moved on to agricultural applications because I saw tremendous application or opportunities here. And again here, based on our previous example of explosive detection, so we followed a similar approach. We said, let's do a complete top-down approach. We looked at the soil health card that Government of India has distributed to farmers, all these micro, macro nutrients, right? So we said, let's develop a kind of a sensors which can fit into a small suitcase, a small briefcase, which will have all of these technologies available for sensing all of these micro and macro nutrients. So between IIT Delhi and IIT Bombay, because by then I had moved to IIT Delhi, we started a program to develop 4 different prototypes: volatile tracking, pathogen detection, moisture, pH and salinity, micro and macro nutrients. So we again started working on these as a large multidisciplinary kind of a group. And so we launched this product now. In fact, last year, we launched the NutriSense. I started my second company, SoilSense, in 2018. So this company, this is a complete electrochemistry based platform. No cantilevers, no micro heaters here. It's a total electrochemistry because that's the only thing that actually worked in the field. And but this is working very well. It can do NPK, it can do pH, and it can do the electrical conductivity. So this is now we are manufacturing them. We have set up a manufacturing plant in Pune, so where we can manufacture it in large numbers. And this is again gaining traction. So we are able to do the tests, lot of tests in the field. We have gone through multiple crop cycles for different crops and different regions of the country. So a lot of background work has got into that. And we have other technologies also for agriculture now. So there are, all of these platforms are available from SoilSense, and we tried it on multiple crop cycles, and we are now technology partners for all of these kind of companies, the big companies in the field. And so we provide the technologies, they provide the service to farmers. And so this company is also doing very well. So I think this is a work that we started with that aim of doing things locally for Indian kind of requirements at IIT Bombay, the first project in IIT Bombay ever in 2005. Now, I think that culture has picked up at IIT Bombay, definitely. So the nanosniff is now doing pretty well. So nanosniff, we started making money by selling the platform because the cardiac thing did not really go too far. But then the cantilever platform, we started selling it to academic institutions, make money, and invested all the money in the explosive detector. So that now they are able to do very well, and they have a unique position in the world. And doing pretty well. And the cardiac thing is still on the back burner, but that we haven't taken up because it's pretty challenging to go through all these hospital trials and other things. And so this has worked very well for NanoSniff. And the soil sense is also doing pretty well. Now they have enough customers and they are selling enough systems. They have a wide variety of products for the market. And so now I am moving more and more towards taking this into an IoT and large scale deployment. And even the soil sense one, we want to develop for the other nutrients now. We only have NPK covered. So we want to develop the other technologies. And even for the agriculture, for the healthcare thing, so my goal is to develop a kind of a biodome with all these technologies integrated. Now, where AI will play the primary healthcare kind of a provider. I mean, not a doctor. No, you enter into this cabin, it will have all the AI kind of technologies where non-invasively whatever you can detect out of a patient. Like today, you can detect, by just making a person sit in a chair in a certain position, you can actually capture a lot of body parameters. Now, using those body parameters, you can do a lot of diagnosis, and so therefore, by developing, generating a lot of data and then doing the first level diagnosis using the machine learning kind of processes, so where doctors are in the background, that is what I wanted to do as a biodome kind of a concept. I was able to, get one of the alumnus of IIT Delhi. He promised, he actually agreed for $1 million funding to establish those such biodomes where you take technologies from all the startups in the country. There are many startups working on AI healthcare. Now integrate those technologies in a biodome project and start collecting the data. But I think we need to take this forward. I haven't done much on that. So I think that is what it is. At IIT Delhi, also I followed this idea factory kind of an approach. And what is an idea factory? To me, idea factory is bringing unlike minds together. So unless we collaborate with people who don't think like us, right? What is that not thinking like us? To me, not thinking is people with different cultural backgrounds interacting with each other is very important. That's where I started pushing this international faculty, international students kind of a thing. And then people with different disciplinary training. At IIT Delhi, I created so many centers, departments, and collaborations, which are essentially to bring to be able for people to work across the disciplines. So we started giving funding, to actually make people to come out of their comfort zones and interact with each other. So there's a lot of such initiatives we took, which is again helping the whole innovation ecosystem. And when I third unlike minds is people with different attitudes. That is where academia industry interactions play a large role. Research parks. I started an industry day at IIT Delhi, a professor of practice thing, joint advanced technology center with DRDO, Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, to connect the farmers with the scientists and so many other things. And once you generate ideas through such interactions, the next step is the delivery aspect of it. And again, we started, central facilities space, the FIRE program I launched at IIT Delhi, faculty innovation and research driven entrepreneurship. I said any faculty member who says, I want to start a company out of my research, institute will give a 50 lakh rupee seed grant. And again, these are all equity investments. Nothing is a grant. So you hold equity in that faculty member's company, but you are the first investor in that company, and hoping that some of these companies will do well, and you realize all of that money back multifold. So that was the kind of a thing. I also started a PhD incubator, that is platform for harnessing deep technologies. We started a program where we PhD students who want to start companies, because after PhD is over, every student is looking for a postdoc, right? Or because they want to get married at that age, it becomes very important. And then so nobody wants to take so many chances after a PhD trying a startup kind of a thing, right? That won't work. And so we said we will give a fellowship. We will give a fellowship of 60,000 rupees after your PhD, which is for 18 months. In that 18 months, out of your PhD work, can you build a prototype and eventually a startup? So that was an idea, making PhD students stay back with a fellowship kind of a thing, so they can continue to work towards a startup kind of an idea. So we started to do that, and the student startup action plan and a lot of different things we did at IIT Delhi, but that's what is required. I mean, all of that actually yielded results. In my 6 years at IIT Delhi, when I look back, We created 13 centers of excellence. We increased the number of faculty engaged in research projects, increased the research funding 4 times. The patents, we filed, IIT Delhi filed more patents in that 5 years than the previous 55 years. So I think some of these definitely made a difference, and more startups kind of a thing. And even during the COVID time, a lot of technologies came out of IIT Delhi, because this essentially COVID acted like a mission mode project. Because there is a problem, right? You do whatever you want during the COVID time, but it can only be for solving the COVID issue. So that was a goal we set, and we said you can take internal funding if you are working on COVID. So once we defined one single problem for 600 faculty and started giving money, I could see that from 6 months onwards, people started coming up with so many new technologies. We launched during the peak of COVID the Corosure kit from IIT Delhi, a 399 rupees artist PCR kit, while in the market they were charging something like 2,500 rupees for the RT-PCR. We had the 50 rupee antigen kit from IIT Delhi. There is so much of innovation potential in our institutions. All that is required is to tie up all the research that is happening with problems. In the COVID time, it automatically happened. So we could see that potential, and that I believe is something that we need to leverage even during the normal times. Once COVID over, everybody went back to their own research now. So then there was nothing else tying all of them together. But that was actually during COVID time, we filed 153 patents during the peak of COVID, and so that potential exists, in all our educational kind of institutions. So this is my last slide. A top-down product-oriented approach is what helped. Work on the platform development. Many times people ask me, if I work on products and things, how would I write papers? You can write lots of papers. You need to choose the problem carefully. If you are indigenizing something, you cannot write any papers because somebody has already done all of that. But if you are developing something for the first time, like that explosive detector based on a micro sensor, micro heater kind of a thing, or even agricultural sensors, low cost agricultural sensors. So there you can write lots of papers. You file patents, and then you write papers, and then you commercialize them. But you need to protect the IP as early as possible. And in academic places, you get a lot of money. So therefore, use the academic environment to mature your technology. Don't start companies in a hurry. That is a mistake I did from my first company, NanoSniff. They struggled, quite a bit of time. But my second company, we did not do that. Soil Sense, we said, when you start a company, within 6 months, you should be earning revenues. Everything you need to do for that, do from IIT, because here as a professor, I can raise money. As a company founder, I cannot raise any money. So I think that was very important kind of a learning. And government sources, there are now, I think these sources are increasing. You can get money from a few other channels right now. And only professors and students cannot build company. You need a team. So that is very critical. A lot of people, start companies and start fighting with each other. I think that doesn't take us anywhere. We need to, work together. And involving students is very important. Both my companies are run by my ex-PhD students. They are doing very well. They hired many more people. So these companies have done well for themselves. And look for ideas where there is a great domestic market demand, because that is where the markets are. And we are fortunately in India, not in Singapore, right? You have so many problems and so many people also. So therefore, here building a company with a higher valuation, even for technologies, is pretty easier. And so I say that the passion, patience, and perseverance. The many students today, what is missing is the patience. They just want to become billionaires before they turn 30. So that won't work, unfortunately, with the technology area. So I think I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your educative lecture. I request the director and Dr. Jagdish to be on the dais, please.
Thank you. Any questions, or we don't have time for questions? Okay.
Thank you, Professor Ramgopal, for an absolutely stimulating and thought-provoking journey you took us through on 80th Foundation Day of IICT. Through your lecture, it's evident the need and the interplay among education, knowledge generation, innovation, and entrepreneurship is very well evident through a lecture. And the importance of system approach and institutionalization of these kind of activities or have been well exemplified through your own success stories, particularly how your innovative platform of molecular cantilever sensor could be utilized for diverse applications ranging from clinical diagnostics, explosives, to soil nutrition testing. Thank you for sharing with us. Sir, your specific emphasis with lucid descriptions on the importance of translational research and product innovation in Indian academic and R&D institutions, and how one can accelerate the culture of product innovation in the country through a multidisciplinary approach are highly illustrative. We are hopeful that many of our colleagues and students are motivated and energized by your talk and gearing up towards more innovative research. Thank you once again for your wonderful lecture.
Thank you, Dr. Jagdish. I request our director to felicitate the chief guest with a shawl and a memento to commemorate this auspicious occasion of the 80th Foundation Day of CSIR-IICT. Thank you, sir, for doing the honors. I request Dr. K. Rajendra Reddy to kindly come onto the dais to give his concluding remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Rajendra Reddy.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a great honor and privilege to give vote of thanks on this CSIR Foundation Day. First and foremost, I thank our chief guest, Professor V. Ramgopal Rao, former director of IIT Delhi and Vice Chancellor of BITS Pilani, who, despite his busy schedule, has found time to grace this occasion. And in this, I would like to say that whatever Professor Rao has given thought-provoking lecture, and I expect some of the young minds will get ignited by his talk, and they can move from publications to patents and products. Presence of galaxy of directors from our sister laboratories is a special attraction of today's program. CSIR-IICT thanks all of them for attending. I also express my heartfelt thanks to all the former, present colleagues, and students who have attended today's celebrations. I thank our beloved director, Dr. Srinivasa Reddy, for his unstinted support. I thank the members of media who accepted our invitations and present here to cover the event. I owe special gratitude to our lab services like HLS, canteen, guest house, security, and other staff who have worked behind the screen and to ensure the occasion becomes a memorable one. Thank you, all of you. Thank you. And I request all of you to join for a cup of tea, which is arranged outside this auditorium. Thank you. And now we will have a national anthem. Thank you.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उज्जल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे